Alrighty, so time for some examples. I'm going to work one, you're going to work one. There's not a lot on this one, so. Alright, so first thoughts here. We're going to add these two, right? Now, if they were just integers, you would know that you're technically going to subtract. Yeah? So, because we have one negative, one positive. But again, we got to do some thinking on this. So you can't just say, you can't take 3.8 minus 5.12. You have to put the larger absolute value on top when you subtract. So if you have to do it by hand. So in other words, I'm going to have 5.12 technically minus 3.8, and then don't forget the 0. But again, we know the answer is going to be negative because the larger absolute value is also negative. So I'm going to put my decimal point here. 2 minus 0 is 2. I have to borrow 8, or 11 minus 8 rather, is 3. And 4 minus 3 is 1. So negative 1.32. Play that again if you need to kind of make sure all that makes sense. But again, things to pay attention to are the fact that first off, positive and a negative, so you're going to be subtracting. You always put the larger absolute value on top when you subtract, but don't lose that negative along the way. Lots to keep track of in your head, I get it. Pause, go ahead and head into class kick, and you work one. Alrighty, so in here, this one's pretty straightforward. We've got 3.3, so to line up those decimals, minus 2.48. Don't forget to put that magic, secret 0 up there. This is normal one. There's not much to think about other than the fact that you got to line up those decimals. And so the bigger one minus the smaller one. A little bit of borrowing fun here. 3 becomes a 2. 10 minus 8 is 2. Bring down that decimal before you forget it. More borrowing. 3 becomes a 2. 12 minus 4 is 8. 2 minus 2 is 0. So 82 hundredths if you prefer. Continue for another example from me. Alrighty, so all those rules we learned before, they still apply, right? I'm still allowed to, the add-out property and all that fun, so I'm going to do that real quick, right? So it's 8 plus, or negative 8 rather, plus 1.47. Alright, so again, I know you're thinking, well, this is positive, this is negative, so I'm really subtracting. But again, the larger absolute value has to go on the top when you subtract. So and the answer is going to be negative because there's more negatives here, right? So 8.00 technically minus 1.47. And again, we know the answer is going to be negative because we have a larger negative absolute value here. So lots of borrowing fun going on, right? 8 becomes a 7. This 10 becomes a 9. Here we have 10. 10 minus 7 is 3. 9 minus 4 is 5. Bring down your decimal. 7 minus 1 is 6. Negative 6.53. Pause. Your turn to head into class kick and work one. Alrighty. So again, we got to ask ourselves here, can we use some rules we know? You betcha. Add-out property, right? So, what we've got going on, there's a lot of thinking here today. It's technically 7.2 minus 7.8, but again, the larger absolute value is 7.8, so it goes on the top. 7.8 minus 7.2, but we did say that answer is going to be negative because we have a larger negative at the larger absolute value on our negative. That's what I'm trying to spit out. Bring down my decimal point. 8 minus 2 is 6. 7 minus 7 is 0. There we go. Negative 6/10, if you prefer. Today's worksheet is like 30 problems of these, I think, something like that. So go ahead and grab it from up front and get to it. If you need help, please ask. I gave the answer key to check it, all that, but show your work, please.